Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Rebecca Pickens. I'm a certified book coach and developmental editor, and I'm also host of Self-Editing Essentials, a group coaching program for writers who have finished or almost finished writing their book and are ready to learn the art of self-editing. If you would like to learn more about the services that I provide writers, you can look for the links in the comments section. Okay, so today we're going to talk all about beta readers. If you have finished writing your book, you may be wondering what to do next. You know that there may be a couple steps to do before you start submitting your story to literary agents or trying to self-publish. And what a lot of people do is look for an editor. And that's a great idea. I'm an editor. I see what this can do for writers' stories. It's a fantastic and really important part of the process. But before you do that, there's a step I recommend, and that is finding yourself good beta readers. Beta readers are not professionals. They don't work for the publishing industry. They don't necessarily know market trends or have a thorough understanding of literary elements and editing terms. What they are is avid readers who love books as much as you do. And oftentimes they are willing to work for free or in exchange for perhaps a beta read from you. Wonderful thing that beta readers give to you is a chance to see how your story is going to land with ordinary readers. Beta readers can provide all kinds of information about how your characters are landing, if your pace is moving forward, if your story has momentum, narrative drive. So, this is a really important step in your path toward publishing. But there are absolutely ways to maximize the value of your beta read. And I want to talk to you about those today. So I say this to writers all the time, whether you're working with a beta reader or a professional editor, when you receive that feedback from them, it's going to be intense. If you're anything like every other writer I know, myself included, as soon as you know that your feedback is coming soon from that editor or beta reader, you're checking your email, wondering if it's in your inbox yet. You can't wait to see what they've sent you. But inevitably, when you start reading that feedback, no matter how positive and glowing it is, there are going to be bits of feedback that sting because you're asking for the truth. You're asking for honest feedback. And not everything that your reader is going to tell you is going to feel great. So I want you to just be aware of that before the feedback comes, that this is a really vulnerable position you're putting yourself in. You're being super brave. And and it's going to be worthwhile. It is worth kind of the agony of going through receiving this feedback. But there are ways to make it easier. And the first tip I always recommend is read that feedback and then put it away. You need to give yourself time to absorb the information before you sit down and make those changes. That inevitable emotional feeling you will experience reading a critique is not a good headspace to be in to start creating and editing and polishing your work. So just notice the reaction you're having to the feedback you're receiving and let that feedback sit with you for a few days. And then you'll be surprised how differently that feedback lands with you when you return to it in a few days or another week or so. Once you really feel ready to put on your editor's hat, to look at the feedback you've received objectively and not emotionally, the next step is to sort through this information, to sort through every bit of information that your beta reader has provided and organize it just like you would any kind of data. I like to think about the information you receive from a beta reader in three different tiers. That means you have high value edits, style and voice suggestions, and suggestions that just really hinge on personal taste of that reader. And all of this information is interesting. It all has something to teach you, but not all of it will necessarily impact the edits that you make. So by sorting out each line of feedback that you receive into one of these three categories, it's going to be much easier when it comes time to go into your manuscript and start doing revisions and incorporating some of these edits, because you will have sifted through the feedback that you are going to act upon and the feedback that is good to know, but not necessarily going to change how you have presented your story. So let's look first at high value changes. This is when these are edits that speak to confusion that the reader is having. They might be noticing an inconsistent character's behavior, pacing issues, factual errors that pop up in your manuscripts. This is the kind of detail that's going to trip up any kind of reader, no matter who they are, no matter what kind of book they like to read. These are details that will interfere with their enjoyment of the story. And so these are really top level edits that you will want to tackle. And putting them in their own special file is going to be really helpful in the sense that you know, okay, this is something I'm going to look at when it comes time to do revisions. Then we've got this second tier where we're looking at style and suggestions perhaps for character voice. These are subjective edits. It doesn't mean they're correct and it doesn't mean they're incorrect. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? There's a subjectivity involved in terms of what works and won't work in your story. So some readers may not love a certain word that you use, but you know that this is the word that your character would use to express this idea, and this is aligned with your vision. So although it may be a good edit, a smart edit, it may not be the edit for your story, but it might be. You may not be sure until you really get back in there. So this can go in a second container for edits that you want to mull over. You can see that they could work, but they may not work, and you're not sure. So you want to play with those with an open mind. Finally, you will get a lot of feedback from beta readers that's really just personal taste, particularly if you didn't have a chance to really vet your reader. You want to be very, very careful. A beta reader is not an objective reader. They come to the table with biases. Some love science fiction, some love literary fiction, some love it all, right? And so, depending on how aligned they are with the genre that you're writing, their feedback is going to be more or less um, valuable. So if you feel like the feedback you're receiving is a reflection more of the reader's preferences rather than an actual craft issue with your manuscript, do not feel pressured to act on that advice. It's interesting, but it may very well pull away from pull your story away from your vision and turn it into something that is not authentic or part of your brand. So it's very important to discern the difference between objective feedback and something that's more aligned with that beta reader's personal taste. Finally, ask yourself, does this edit align with the story that you want to tell? That is the most important question you can ask. If it doesn't belong in your story. Ideally, you'll be able to have more than one beta reader. Ideally, like if you could get 3 or 5 people who really understand your genre, who enjoy your genre, and have all of them read and give feedback, you will be able to get data that where you'll have enough data where you can start to look for patterns. For example, one person provides a note, it's an opinion. But if 3 or more readers are saying the same thing, you're starting to notice a pattern, and it's probably worth really giving that issue a lot more thought than you might if one person spoke about it. Trying to identify what the real issue is beneath a comment is very important. And here's another place where we can start to look for patterns. If a bunch of readers are telling you, oh, I just really don't like that character. I don't know why, but I don't like him. And I just stopped paying attention every time he showed up on the page. That's really interesting. The issue isn't necessarily, or the problem isn't necessarily the fact that this character is unlikable. Not every character is meant to be likable. But if the reader stops feeling inclined to read, if they're skimming over all the pages that that unlikable character is appearing on, that's something to look at. So why is this character so distasteful that I'm losing the attention of my reader? It's not necessary that you fix this character and make him necessarily a great guy, but it may be that you need to thread in some details about this character's life that at least evoke the reader's empathy. Because when we have empathy, even if we don't like a character, we can be interested in them. We can be invested in seeing where they're going to go next. So the problem that the beta reader presents is not necessarily the problem you need to fix. You need to sometimes drill down and understand what lies beneath the surface of their edit. The same thing when they say, "Oh, I don't really know. This part was really boring." Well, that's very vague. That you can't just say, "Okay, well, I'll go make it interesting." Instead, you want to really think about craft, right? Why is this boring? Because perhaps your stakes are too low. So this may be a place to go in and raise the stakes, add more conflict, something that's going to keep readers on the edge of their seats and turning the pages. When you get feedback from beta readers, inevitably you want to go and fix everything all at once. But I really urge writers to take it step by step. Make a list of the changes that feel the most important, the most aligned with what your goals and objectives for your story are, and that feel most doable. You do not need to do an overhaul of the entire manuscript. You can take the most urgent issues and work your way from there through your manuscript at a pace that feels sustainable and feels productive. Keep your edits focused and intentional. Never rip apart a manuscript because of a single beta read. These are, again, the opinions, the very subjective opinions of a particular reader. You still have an opportunity after the beta reads to bring your manuscript to an editor who's going to look at your manuscript from a developmental perspective and kind of look at how all of the big pieces fit together. So unless you feel really confident that that beta reader has pointed something out to you so fundamental and so clear that it warrants pulling all the parts apart of your story, maybe sit tight, go slow, make sure that their feedback really resonates for you. And a great thing about a beta reader is beta readers are just really naturally very generous people. And like I said, they love reading. So talking books is also a lot of fun. Feel free, as long as they're open to it, to ask for clarification. If something in the feedback feels unclear or confusing, follow up with that beta reader. Maybe take them out for a cup of coffee or hop on Zoom, because talking about a readerly experience is sometimes easier than writing about it in an email. So when you start asking probing questions, sometimes for that reader, their ambivalence about a specific aspect of your story becomes more clear in their mind just through the act of talking about it. And that way, you're able to get better data. You will have more clarity about what it is that wasn't landing well for that writer, for that reader. And that will make, of course, editing much easier. Finally, and most important of all, this is your story. Feedback is a tool, not a mandate. I'm going to say that one more time because it's so important. Feedback is a tool. Use what strengthens your work and set aside what doesn't. Ultimately, trust your instincts. Once you have incorporated that data from your beta readers and you've gone back and really polished it, you may, if you're fortunate enough to know some other people who would be open to doing a beta read, you may want to go one more round, or you may feel ready to take your story to the next level and submit it to a professional editor. And after that, you get to start querying or working on self-publishing your book. So you are so close. If you are starting to think about getting yourself a beta reader, you are nearing the finish line, and I am so excited for you. If you have any questions or want to reach out and learn more about beta readers or talk to me about the editing services I provide, just drop me a comment in the comments section. I would love to talk to you. And if this video was helpful, I would be so grateful if you would hit like and subscribe to this channel. I drop new information every Tuesday about all things related to writing, publishing, editing, and I would just love for you to join me here. Thanks so much. Happy writing.